Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Sky coming on to talk to you about a topic that I've been really looking forward to reading about. This is a video about the last moments of Saturn in Pisces, talking about Saturn transiting the ANARETIC 29th degree of Pisces. And in this video, I want to hold some space for this change that we're about to be in as we are leaving a cycle of Saturn. Now, yes, do hit the subscribe button below as I will be making a full in-depth Saturn in Aries video. So yes, that will be coming out later this month most likely. But I wanted to give some space to working with the end of Saturn in Pisces because, you know, it's always significant whenever Saturn changes sign, but perhaps even more significant when it enters a new cycle, right? Saturn is in Pisces. Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. So not only is Saturn changing sign this month, it's also shifting into a new 30-year cycle as it takes Saturn roughly 30 years to go around the sun. And that means that, yes, we are coming from a period of time that or a cycle that started in about 1994, 1995, that will now culminate here in 2025, okay? And we're going to be entering into a very different paradigm, and that may not be totally felt until 2026, although we will get a foreshadowing during this time, as yes, through retrograde, we will have Saturn back in Pisces one more time in this cycle, I believe in November, December, and January of this year oncoming. So yes, we will be seeing that, you know, if you feel kind of like, oh, I haven't figured it out, or I need more time, or I need an extension, I do feel that that will be granted, and I feel that that will be happening throughout this year. But yes, by May 24th, when Saturn goes into Aries, we will automatically get a reality check, okay? And we're going to understand very clearly what we've come out of this last 30-year cycle with. And it's very likely for most people that they will begin to enter a process of selecting a new path or queuing up some type of new life goal or life journey. So getting straight into these intuitive messages for ANARETIC Saturn in Pisces, the first thing that I had written down is very simple. Some things are concluding, and it's very hard during this time to be someone who doesn't want to accept that or wants to see that something that was really long running, which is naturally working itself out or naturally concluding, naturally leaving. It's very hard for people who are attached and want to force continuance or want to force something to continue almost in a zombified form. So we will begin to see that, you all. We will begin to see zombified entities during this time, zombified relationships, zombified businesses, okay? And that has actually already been somewhat visible over these last few years, even really as much as the last 10 years, as even by the time that we had Neptune working its way through Pisces, and specifically when Saturn hit Pisces in 2023, there was already a very powerful feeling of, you know, this is on its last leg, something is concluding, something is ending. So we've been working, I think, as a collective with generally less energy for sure since 2023, but honestly, this started to come in like 2019, right before those triple Capricorn conjunctions and the events of 2020, when things really pared down to the household, when people needed to start resting more, you know, not wanting to work anymore, not wanting to earn money anymore, not wanting to really participate in the way that society worked before. So the zombification, I would say, of certain entrenched traditional societal norms, formats, and infrastructures already really became prevalent in 2013, kind of climaxed around 2019 and 2020, and then we started to really see an alternate kind of format as soon as 2023. Well, I know that that's quite a few timelines that I've bounced around there, but 2026 comes and it's kind of a new journey, you all. And a lot of these situations that we're in here, like 2024, 2025, are going to have felt somewhat like a sojourn, okay, or a temporary stay, or a larger connecting point to a stronger new frontier path. So already June 2025, Saturn gets into Aries and we're going to begin to flirt with these new paths, or we're going to basically have already conquered something or have already experienced something, and we're going to want to see it change, or we're going to want to see that we have the right package or the right resources to step into new frontiers. So if I'm thinking you all about a more mundane suggestion or advice that I can give you all here, right at this cusp of Saturn and Pisces and Aries, is take, I would say, the next 7 to 9 months, that we have of, Saturn's going to dip its toe into Aries, and then it's going to go back into Pisces at the end of calendar year 2025. May to January, May 2025 to January 2026. Some people need to institute what I would call, maybe like an emergency savings plan or an emergency contingency dialogue or something to transition from a state of dependence on these old zombified norms or institutions to more of an independent footing, okay? That's the most important thing that I can tell you that I'm downloading from Saturn at ANARETIC degree Pisces. There is an importance placed on accepting that, yes, maybe the past dreams are dead, okay? And maybe we don't need to tell romantic stories or try to give CPR to certain things that we wanted before, or certain things that we felt were right for us before, back before inflation, when we're like, all I want is to own my own home, or to, have this specific kind of autonomy that sort of fits, that kind of 10 of cups, white picket fence social construct. Whereas now that can almost be like a slave contract, okay, depending on how you're angling towards it. So there's an acceptation that is important here regarding what my dreams were in the past and how those can now be adapted to fit this current new frontier. So maybe certain white picket fence 1950s kind of norms or outlets will be maybe not as achievable for some people here, but what could be achievable is actual human connection in a different form, okay? So we are actually going to move into a much more relatable grid with Saturn and Neptune and Aries. There's going to be a lot more camaraderie, almost like soldiers in the military, okay? And the way that they kind of get along, and some of the, cultures of camaraderie, and also cultures of hierarchy or rank, or in some cases bullying too, that will kind of queue up. But the Neptune is going to soften that a little bit, and I really do feel for the majority there's going to be a more positive shoulder to shoulder in this together kind of feeling that starts to generate. We're going to get a little bit of a taste of that as we move into this summer, and we're going to get this kind of almost like being on a cheerleading squad kind of sentiment and feeling, which will actually, for a lot of people in this space, as someone who was a cheerleader in the past myself, it's kind of nice for us actually, and maybe better than a lot of this asset focus or a lot of this materialism or hedonism that was here before, and this hyper individualism. But there is a transition that we're in now, and I do feel that a lot of these separated or split off from the human contact realities that people are in may have to be seen as more of a zombified kind of engagement. And I'm not saying that, the private sphere or individualism is negative, but I do just want to note that Pluto in Aquarius, Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, and eventual Uranus in Gemini as well, is very antithetical to that compared to what we were before, with the Neptune in Pisces, Pluto in Capricorn. We had Saturn in Capricorn as well, and Uranus in Taurus. That was very, in some cases, isolated, very separated, almost segregation of the elite, so they never integrate with society. That was a lot of what was actually steering and influencing the totality of the world during that time, was sort of separation of the wealthy. And I do feel that may change form here, or there may be people who are inheriting those things who want more of a shoulder-to-shoulder camaraderie. So it may just be a change of animal spirits. And I also feel that some people are just feeling lonely, okay? And some people are feeling kind of split off from the root, or uprooted, or ungrounded. And as Uranus begins to move towards Gemini, okay, and we have the Saturn in Aries and Neptune in Aries, yeah, there's going to be, I think, more of a connective conglomeration of roots rather than separated ones. So back to the specific part of this video, which is these final degrees of Saturn in Pisces. And again, this video could be relevant for May 2025, but also November, December, and January. We are concluding. We are sort of in a collective elder phase. And it's going to be more difficult here in May than it will be later this year when it returns, because we've got this Jupiter square in Gemini. So you've got one part of the collective that's in this elder phase, and you've got another part that's in a youthful masculine, and they're kind of conflicted, and they're creating a crux. So it's very hard here to take anything at face value. It's like, well, I think it would be good to, pay off these debts, but at the same time, I feel that I'm cutting off my opportunities or something. So it's just like every choice here is got like a contrasting reasoning. So it's a hard time for decisions, and for some people there is non-intervention here. There is, again, a dose of reality and a wisening, also very possible. So if you wanted to spend some time fasting, okay, during this final part of Saturn in Pisces, you could get very good results. Detoxing, or just spending more time in quiet and solitude, getting the electronics away, that will be very rewarded during the final part of Saturn in Pisces here. And I'm also reminded of what was coming to me in a lot of the May 2025 sign by signs on Patreon, which I will link below. Specifically in Pisces reading, obviously this was channeling through a lot of this final Saturn in Pisces energy. One of the most profound understandings I got in that was learning or understanding unapologetically here that it's okay not to be someone else's collateral damage, okay? That it's okay to let other people have their own cycles and to not sometimes be drained by other people or drained by other people's difficult traumatic cycles. It's a difficult time here to be a therapist, all right? Or it's a difficult time here to be someone who is constantly called upon to help filter through another person's difficulties. And I did feel that there is a end of these stories for some people. Like, some people are in the final phase of being another person's therapist. Some people are in the final phase of being another person's collateral damage here. This could be, and if I was kind of interpreting the Jupiter-Saturn squares too, like the combination of the elder and the youthful masculine, this could be like growing up in an abusive household and, you're about to turn 18 and you're about to get the heck out of there. Okay, it could be kind of like that vibes, like, like a few weeks before turning 18, but like maybe the abuse is like at a climax because there is a sort of like, it's weird how this happens here to you all. We need to talk about this. Sometimes when everyone knows that someone's about to transcend something, or the whole household that is dysfunctional knows that another member of the household is about to finally evolve or move on, they will ramp up the burn and the difficulty. So this is not necessarily chosen or conscious, but it's kind of like dark energy or darkness or shadow in general. It wants to coax people to remain, or it wants to keep people kind of entrapped in it. So if there's almost an escape, or if there's almost like a graduation out or a disconnecting, oftentimes it will ramp up its onslaught, or it will ramp up and like almost try to weaken someone to the extent that they can't really step away. That could very much be something that is coming up here, you all, and I want you to recognize this if this is happening in your lives. I want you to recognize if something has ramped up, if some type of dark energy has ramped up, if some type of chronic illness has ramped up, if, you're having some kind of conflict that seems like it never ends, suddenly flare back up, an autoimmune disease flare back up. This probably means you're right on the edge of transcending it. And it's kind of trying to, with one last stand, like trying to reassert itself or kind of project itself upon you again. So there is really desperate ego projection here. This is definitely like, the archetypal devil card in the tarot, being chained to something that's negative, not feeling like you can leave it, okay? Having all the funds in the world to leave an abusive household, but for some reason not, chaining yourself to certain area karmas that make no sense now. That's so easy to see here because of familiarity, or because of, like, this is where my family has always lived, or this is where I grew up, or this is what is familiar to me. So I'm seeing like a lot of people with a familiarity wound. I'm seeing a lot of people with like a nervousness also to experience the new, yet it is all that they want consciously. So like, again, this crux, this squaring off, as Jupiter in Gemini right now is really wanting us to go towards something new. It's really wanting kind of like a sacred Three of Wands discovery process. It's wanting a new horizon, but it's squared to the Saturn in Pisces, which is, again, the opposite. It's like wanting the familiarity, in the same sense that maybe someone who's like in their 80s or 90s, someone who's an elder and they've like lived in the same house for 40 or 50 years, kind of unlikely to see a move during that time, kind of unlikely to see them changing that. But here's a time where they would want to, though, but they would kind of feel like they just can't do it because they're an elder. So there would be this kind of like crux coming in. So this is like what the collective is going through regardless of your age, where it's like, gosh, I'm like 85 years old. I've lived in this house for 40 years. It's paid off and I'm good. I'm fine. My health is good. And I kind of want to just go live somewhere that I've never lived before. I kind of want to do something different, but this feels very unlikely in the reality. And maybe in some ways this would be, maybe this points to like me having been too stabilized in my youth, or maybe I didn't get something out of my system. This is a period of time where you see the quote unquote like stable person go off to have like an international affair or something when they're like 57, okay? Because maybe when they were like 27, they didn't let themselves do it back then and they've never had that experience. So there is also a mania here there with the Jupiter-Saturn square. And you do have to kind of be careful with the decisions. And just because my nature, as someone who has like a very strong Saturn in their chart, is more of a stabilizing one, at the end of the day, I kind of lean more towards being, making the choice that is safer. But it depends on the age, it depends on the context, and who is anyone to really say that another person can't leave, okay? That's an interesting thing here, like this kind of projected, maybe unspoken energy, like you can't leave. You're too old to leave this house, even though the freedom and autonomy is actually totally there. So I will be making a video, you all, about abstract confinements. Is something that I've meant to film about ever since we've had, this came to me like halfway through Saturn and Pisces, where people are like kind of imprisoned in their own mind or imprisoned in their own interpretation of limitations, but physically it's not there. Like they have the key to their door, they have plenty of funding, they have all kinds of natural ways to exit certain situations, but they feel for some reason that they are confined in these situations. And, especially if you're like a younger person here, or say, for example, you're in like your 20s or 30s, I would consider enjoying your youth, your freedom, and your autonomy here, because, you don't want to get into like your 70s and 80s and kind of like feel a crux about this kind of thing then. It is nice for youth to be youth here. It's nice for elders to be elders, as I do feel there is a crux, and I feel that things are kind of like messed up, and I definitely feel there are a bunch of young people being parents to their older parents. I feel that a lot of relationship norms are highly inverted because of this Neptune, Saturn, and Pisces we've had, which has, in a lot of senses, made things kind of backward. So this can be where like the 14 or 15-year-old is like taking care of the sick parent and like paying the bills and doing the grocery shopping and the cooking while the sick parent like lays in bed all day, okay, and is taken care of, okay, like a backward kind of hierarchy. Or people can have lingering problems because they went through something like that in their life. So maybe now they're like 30 and they can't like give themselves new experiences because in their teenage years, like the need for discovery and youth got like warped by like having to become a caretaker or something. So like now it's like the mind is kind of in an abstract confinement from what it went through many, many years ago. There's a lot of things like that, right, with Saturn and Pisces, Saturn finishing a cycle. It's interesting to think back, when I was a teenager, or when I had my Saturn return, or when I had Saturn conjunct my sun, any strong Saturn transits. Was there some kind of warping? Is there some kind of PTSD or some kind of abstract confinement that generated based on my experiences back then? Do I still need that? Is that still serving me? Could I release that right here, right now, right this second? Okay, I think that's a thought-provoking question, because one thing that I want to tell you guys almost as a celebration right now is there's a very powerful sense with Saturn at the ANARETIC degree of Pisces, at the final degree of the zodiac, that, how can I explain this? Some of you are probably feeling it, but it's like, I don't actually need to be chained down by anybody or anything. This is my human life, and I'm not about to let some kind of sort of fragile psychological dynamic imprison me and cut me off from new experiences. Life is too short. Human life is something that is meant to move. It's meant to have movement. It's meant to traverse. It's not sometimes meant to be stuck in a nursing home, okay, or stuck in a house that you can barely pay the mortgage on, and therefore you can't really leave it ever or step away from it, or too high of rent is a similar kind of construct too. So there's a lot of misery in the collective right now because yes, this is economical, high mortgage payments, high rent payments, high taxes. It is an abstract confinement, and it's not abstract at a certain point, because if you don't pay it, you lose your house. But maybe that would be better for some people here, if I'm honest. I just don't know. I don't know about some of these confining mechanisms here. I'm finding too much of a stagnation as well. And this is because I'm filming this in Taurus season, and there's a very kind of like radical energy to Taurus this year, as it's, I believe, the final time that we're having Uranus in Taurus with the sun in Taurus. So it's kind of like not feeling more like it wants to be confined either. It's wanting to set up a new, more innovative Aquarian, Pluto and Aquarian stabilities rather than these Pluto and Capricorn stabilities. So there's a shakeup of the mind space, you all. There's a shakeup also of like what I think stability is, what security is, what housing, shelters, and structures are, what businesses are. All of that is about to get very much more virtualized, and it's about to get more autonomous. It's about to get lighter, which I do actually think is positive as I'm feeling the collective right now, as I'm feeling this Saturn at the final degree of the zodiac. I'm feeling like a lot of people are quite detached from what human life is and what humanity is, and they're very attached to what the four walls of this house are, to what the cash in the bank is, to what the number on the screen is. And those things are not animate. Those things are not living. Those are dead, flat 2D things. So there is quite a 2D proliferation here. There's quite a flattening for a lot of people and a stagnation. And I think that one positive thing about Saturn right on this cusp of the final degree of the zodiac and the first is like there's a chance to really get more dimensional. There's a chance to ascend. There's a chance to transcend. And there's also a chance to take these lessons and, yes, now I understand how to have a business. Now I understand how to have a mortgage. Now I understand all of this, but like just because I understand it does not necessarily mean that that has to be all that my life is about. And some people are kind of like stuck in the closet here as well. Like they have something that they want that other people don't know that they want. And again, they're flattened out in some kind of 2D ego because they think that that is security, or they think that that is something that is protective to them, when in reality, it's almost like giving with one hand and it's taking with another, and it's taking, the real youthful essence and the real humanity out of the equation. So there could be a reclaiming coming here. There could be quite a grand reclaiming, or the rest of the 2025 year cycle could be functioning as some type of grand reclaiming of youth, some type of like grand reclaiming of time lost. And I think also that this will be very joyful, but it can in some ways be destructive, or it can change the way that people think about you and bring with it what could be considered by some people who are super security focused to be a negative outcome. But also it might bring you the experience that you've needed to like transcend the need of that kind of 2D flat security grid, okay? And it could also generate a different kind of security somewhere else. So it's a good reminder here that energy never dies, it just changes hands, or it goes somewhere else, okay? So you want to retain your own energy as much as you can, and also I feel like that could be a metaphor about money too, like your wealth, okay? It can transfer, but it never dies. So like careful about spending it all away, putting it in someone else's hand. Instead, it's good, you can like sell your house here, and you could transfer a lot of that into a much more savvy living situation, and maybe like a creative business or something that is more generating a higher volume for you, and maybe over time is actually a much better pathway to wealth than some of this like material hedonistic asset focus. But I think what I want to really conclude on for this video is this sort of understanding that this final degree of Saturn in Pisces that is happening specifically, I think it's like May 13th to May 24th, but we're in it right now as well. This is about a 10, 15, 20 day period of time where we really need to sit with the totality of our experience over the last 30 years. What were the best parts? What were the worst parts? What are things that we would not like to have anymore? What would we like to have more of? And it's great to kind of consolidate this into like a thesis or into some kind of undisputably positive growth by augmenting what was good and reducing what was bad. And I think it's going to take a lot of sobriety, it's going to take a lot of recharging, and it's going to take a lot of prayer for some people to understand how to do that filtering process and how to kind of like rebalance their lives. But yes, you all check the link in the description box below, the May 2025 sign by signs. I went through a lot of this and I talked about this energy that is so imbued in May 2025 for each zodiac sign. If you want to get some expanded insights as well as weekly forecasts on Saturdays called T-Chats, go and check out the Patreon page. And yes, keep subscribed to the channel. There will be a full Saturn in Aries video. And do comment below, let me know what you thought about it, and hit the like button. And thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this video. It is a remarkable, growth-oriented learning period of time. I'll talk to you all soon. Have a great one. Bye.